Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving headfirst into a really fascinating historical puzzle. It's a story that connects a legendary general, the world-famous Shaolin Temple, and get this, a martial arts manual with a name that's, well, completely misleading. It's a tale of lost knowledge, battlefield genius, and an intervention that changed martial arts history forever.
Okay, so let's start with the central mystery. There's this book, the Jianjing, which literally translates to sword classic, and it's one of the most important texts in all of Chinese martial arts history. But here's the thing, it barely mentions swords at all. It's all about the staff. So what's up with that name?
And just to make things even more interesting, you've got this incredible story. The guy who wrote this so-called sword classic was a brilliant general from the South, a guy famous for fighting pirates. And right in the middle of his career, he takes a trip to the northern Shaolin Temple, the birthplace of Kung Fu, and basically tells the monks that they've completely forgotten how to fight. Yeah, you heard that right.
So let's get into it. What exactly is this Jianjing? Well, it was written back in the mid-16th century, and it is a ridiculously detailed, comprehensive, and frankly brilliant manual on staff fighting. So forget swords for a minute, this book is all about the long staff. The author, a general named Dayou, had this really revolutionary idea. He believed that if you could truly master the long staff, you could master pretty much any weapon. The principles, the timing, the distance, the power, they were all universal. He basically argued that the staff was the real foundation of all weapon combat, and you could apply those lessons to swords, polearms, you name it. And this book commanded serious respect from the get-go. This was not some obscure text nobody read. We're talking about the most famous military minds of the time, guys like He Liangchen, praising it as the ultimate guide. This book was a total game-changer. So who was the man behind the book? Well, General Dayou was no scholar tucked away in a library somewhere. This guy was one of the most brilliant and, more importantly, battle-hardened commanders of his time. This manual wasn't just theory, it was survival, written in the language of the battlefield. For nearly 50 years, Dayou was on the front lines, dealing with the Ming Empire's biggest threats. He was fighting Mongol raiders up on the northern plains and hunting down these notorious Wuko pirates all along the southern coast. So yeah, this book wasn't born from some peaceful meditation. It was forged in decades of real-world, life-or-death combat.
He was so respected for his skill and his courage that he and his contemporary, the other famous general Qi Jiguang, were known across the entire empire as the Dragon and the Tiger. These were the two greatest protectors of the dynasty, the two guys you absolutely did not want to mess with.
Okay, so what made his system so brutally effective? Why did it work so well against pirates and enemy soldiers? Well, it was all built on this incredibly sophisticated tactical philosophy that goes way beyond just brute force. It was about outthinking your opponent, not just out-hitting them. In modern fencing, they actually have a name for this core idea. It's called second intention offense. See, instead of just attacking head-on, which, is pretty predictable, you make a convincing but totally false move. You're not actually trying to hit them. You're trying to make them react. You trick them into overcommitting to a defense. And in doing that, they create the exact opening you were planning to use all along. And here's the amazing part. Dayou laid out this exact idea 400 years ago with this simple but really profound principle. Hard refers to that direct first intention attack. Sure, it has its place, but the real secret, the soft power, is in the second intention, waiting for their move and then using it against them. This phrase right here, this is the absolute heart of the whole system. It means you wait for that precise, fleeting moment when their attack has just missed or it's just finished, but before they can recover to launch another one. In that tiny little window of time, their old force is gone and their new force isn't there yet. And in that moment, they are completely vulnerable. That is when you strike.
All right, so how does this all lead to the climax of our story? It's 1561, and General Yu is traveling from a campaign in the north down to the south. Along the way, he hears about the Shaolin Temple's legendary fighting skills and decides, hey, I'll make a detour. He wanted to see these famous monks for himself.
So over 1,000 monks, incredibly proud of their heritage, they gather to show off their famous staff techniques for this renowned general. They put on this huge display of their art. But Dayou is just watching, and he sees that their techniques, while they might have looked cool, had become corrupted. They just weren't practical for a real fight anymore.
And he did not mince words. He went right to the abbot and told him, "Your temple's fame is based on the past. The true substance
The real, battle-tested core of your art, it's gone. Now, the abbot could have been really offended, right? But to his immense credit, he humbly admitted the general was right and asked for his help to restore their art.
You knew this wasn't something you could teach in a few afternoon lessons. These monks needed to unlearn all their bad habits and relearn the art in the one place it really matters, the crucible of war. So, he took 2 of the temple's best young monks with him on his active military campaigns against the pirates. For more than 3 years, these 2 monks, Zongqing and Pu Kong, they lived, they trained, and they marched with Yu's army. They learned his system not in the safety of a temple, but on the front lines. And when they finally returned to Shaolin, they brought back an authentic, combat-proven art and started teaching it to all their fellow monks.
So, what was the long-term impact of this pretty incredible exchange? Look, this wasn't just some minor course correction. This was nothing short of a complete revival, a refounding, really, of the Shaolin Temple's most famous martial art, and it came directly from one of history's greatest generals.
But the story doesn't even end there. About 15 years later, the monk Zongqing actually traveled all the way to the capital to find his old teacher. Dayou was thrilled to see him and gave him a copy of his completed Zhenjing manuscript. So now the practical training, the moves, were backed up by the written theory. It was the final step to make sure that direct transmission of knowledge would never be lost again.
And here is the undeniable proof of that legacy, preserved for over 400 years. If you compare the core principles from Yu Dayou's original Jianjing with the Shaolin manual for the Yu family staff style, they are virtually identical. The tiny differences, like copying the character for force as person, are just the kinds of minor transcription errors you'd expect to see over centuries. The lineage is direct, and it's undeniable.
So think about it. This one general's intervention didn't just fix a few techniques. It created a brand new, authentic lineage that literally saved and redefined Shaolin staff fighting for centuries to come. His methods revitalized the entire temple, they became a cornerstone of the curriculum, and his book is still one of the most important texts in martial arts history.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? This whole incredible story, it wasn't some myth or legend. It was preserved right there in stone inscriptions and in military manuals, just waiting for someone to connect the dots. It makes you ask yourself, what other amazing stories, what other lost historical knowledge is hiding right there in plain sight, in texts and poems and inscriptions that we just haven't fully understood yet?